Calm returns in Getchewe, far north of Cameroon, after the weekend's terrorist attack that left 17 people dead and 14 others injured. Some 54,000 candidates take the baccalaureate examination all over again after the initial exams were nullified on grounds of question leakage. Public establishments and enterprises face up to the challenge of performance as a barometer for efficacy, profitability, and competitiveness. Those are our top stories. Hello, I am Ben Meno Pufong. Welcome to the 7:30 News.
Each of us must comply with the measures that have been taken.
Thanks for joining us once again. Let's take you straight to the far north region of Cameroon, where calm is gradually returning in Mayo-Moscoto subdivision, where an armed attack killed 17 people over the weekend, with 14 others seriously injured. The local authorities are reassuring that a security belt has been built around the zone to preempt any further incursion by terrorists. Here now is the governor, Mijiawa Bakari of the Far North region, with an update of the situation. He spoke to our reporter, Ayuk John Ashu.
We got an attack of Boko Haram at Gichewe village, that's in Mayo-Chanaga division. We had been instructed by the hierarchy to go directly to extend the message of first condolence and also the message of support. So we'll be there to see exactly what happened, to help meeting and to take another measure on behalf of the state, condemn this act of those Boko Haram. And we do think that all measures will be taken with our vigilant committee working day and night alongside our forces of law and defense to secure our population.
And in relation to that development, we have this press release from the Ministry of Defense, and it reads, "The Ministry of Defense of the Republic of Cameroon hereby informs on Saturday night, breaking Sunday, the 2nd of August 2020, at about 11:30 p.m., several unidentified terrorists, including 2 suicide bombers, broke into Getchewe village in the Mayo-Moscoto subdivision, Mayo-Chanaga division, Far North region, to perpetrate acts of violence and atrocities. After assaulting the members of the local vigilante committee and other civilians, some of whom hid in makeshift shelters, 2 suicide bombers chased them and activated explosive charges. The explosions caused death and desolation among the attacked people. The provisional human toll of this gruesome attack is as follows: 19 civilians dead, including 2 suicide bombers, and 16 injured. The wounded were evacuated to the Adventist Hospital in Koza, and the others referred to the regional hospital in Marwa in the Far North region. The Ministry of Defense of the Republic of Cameroon hereby informs a C-130 Air Force aircraft, due to extremely poor weather conditions, went off the runway while landing on Sunday, the 2nd of August 2020 in the afternoon at the Marwa Salak Airport in the Jamari division of the Far North region. The aircraft was on mission, had on board 96 passengers, including 5 crew members and 91 defense forces personnel deployed within the multinational joint task force of the Lake Chad Basin Commission. Apart from slight material damage requiring a thorough assessment of the aircraft, no injuries or loss of life were recorded. The legal investigations provided for in such circumstances were immediately initiated to determine the causes of this unfortunate accident. And it is still signed by Commander Tonifak Ngemo Cyril Serge, the head of the Communication Division of the Ministry of Defense. Let's talk other thing now in the news. Over 54,000 candidates across Cameroon have begun receiving the baccalaureate examination of the French subsystem of education. The initial examination was cancelled when the examination officials discovered that the exam questions had leaked. Yoti Kaleli Sange was at the government bilingual high school in Coleton accommodation center here in Yaoundé, where some 700 candidates enrolled for the receipt, and reports that the exams were on a smooth start.
Happy Bac-C and Day candidates queue up at the entrance to Government Bilingual High School in Coleton, where COVID-19 barrier measures are enforced before they are given access to the examination center. They will, for the second time, take the Physique, Chimie and Sciences de la Vie et de la Terre SVT exams.
I feel happy because I'm ready, I'm studying very well, so I'm not afraid to take exam.
Cheating is out of the question this time, as measures are taken to avoid a repeat of what happened on July 23 and 24. The candidates and the chief of center have to wait till 8 a.m. when the assigned exam manager walks in with the papers.
It's total security. We are sure that the exam papers were well secured until the last minute. The students didn't have the question papers beforehand. The receipt will go on serenely.
In the classrooms, the students are searched thoroughly for scrap paper or impersonation.
We are verifying if the students are in school and if the administrators and all teachers assigned are present.
13 of the over 700 candidates receiving the Bac-C and Day exams here are absent. Those of the Bac Day series wrap up August 4 with SVT.
Over in the northwest region, particularly in the regional capital, Bamenda, the examination receipt began with most candidates.
The other one because we did not give enough, because we think that the examination was finished, but it was not finished. It's why that I think that this thing was very difficult for another one that we wrote the last time.
At the government bilingual high school Bamendankwe Center, there are 37 candidates drawn from 4 schools who were involved in receiving the baccalaureate scientific exams.
And in the east and south regions of Cameroon, the receipt of some subjects of the Baccalaureate General examination kicked off hitch-free in the various examination centers in Bertua and Bulova. Gerard Nanje Eyambe, in the following joint report, tells us the atmosphere which reigns in those two regions today.
For the second time in 2 weeks, science candidates for the baccalaureate were receiving some subjects. In the Lone Sub-Center in Ebulova, in the South Region, Lycée Classique et Moderne, some 582 candidates sat for chemistry and life sciences. At the entrance of the centers, temperature of candidates were taken. They washed their hands and wore face masks as part of efforts to fight against the coronavirus. Some candidates were little stressed to rewrite the subjects.
It is a good decision for us to repeat the exams so that all candidates will have equal chances of succeeding. We have studied hard for the past months. The subject I have written is reading rich.
The pulse of the examination was equally felt in Betua in the East region. At the government bilingual high school Betua, it was a timid atmosphere that over 500 candidates for baccalaureate turned out for the lone paper of the day, chemistry. Not too far from here, over 721 candidates of Baccalaureate Day and C sat for the exams in the Lycée Scientifique du Betua. Though 2 absences were recorded, students played the last card with confidence. The receipts come to an end this Tuesday.
Over in the littoral region, some 15,000 candidates of the Baccalauréat Général in that part of the country were rewriting the subjects which were cancelled due to examination malpractice. The littoral regional delegate for secondary education, Guillaume Ernest Ejang Njenji, visited some centers to ensure that the exercise took off without any major hitches. Candidates of the baccalaureate and probatoire technique, as well as those of the brevet de technicien examinations, also began taking their examinations today across Cameroon. Romeo Kmer was out at the Government Bilingual School Plateau Accommodation Center here in Yaoundé, where over 1,000 candidates answered present for the start of the exams and reports that anti-COVID measures were respected to the letter.
Government Bilingual Technical High School Yaoundé is hosting Baccalaureate Probatoire Technique STT examinations. The 877 candidates sitting the Baccalaureate Technique here are writing in nearby Sétif. Meantime, 900. The written part is expected to last for a week, after which candidates will continue with the practical phase.
And this is the 7:30 news on the Cameroon Radio Television, the CRTV. We are beaming live from Yaoundé. Public establishments and enterprises in Cameroon have been challenged to overhaul their managerial strategies and make of performance and profitability an objective they must attain. The challenge comes from the Minister of Finance at a time when most of these establishments and enterprises are dying under the weight of heavy debt load that has caused most of them to stray away from their original mission and vision. Luma Slim Davis reports on the need to instill decent management and strict control in public establishments and enterprises in Cameroon.
Public establishments and public enterprises are expected to contribute remarkably to government's financial stability. Unfortunately, these institutions are falling short of making the mark.
These companies represent the main part of the functioning of the state. In this case, you have two expectations. For the public enterprises, the state needs a good user service. For the enterprise, the state expectation is to have money.
While public establishments have a debt of 36 billion CFA francs owed on salaries, taxes, and social insurance dues, public enterprises have a debt of over 2,000 billion francs owed to suppliers and on salaries.
There is a lot of reforms in this sector. That is the reason why the state is calling these companies to order.
As at December 31st, 2019, government's direct subvention to these entities stood at 137.6 billion francs. That is 2.4% of the state budget.
Performance, as it were, is the barometer with which public enterprises and establishments measure their efficiency, profitability, and competitiveness. Put differently, it is the rock on which public enterprises and establishments are expected to be erected. Joyce Kimbi-Fowajo spoke with some experts on some of the tools that enterprises can use to improve their performance and remain competitive, and pieced together the following report.
Indicators gauging performance in public enterprises in Cameroon are its effectiveness, efficiency, and productivity. But there are indispensable keys needed. As concerns effectiveness, its openers will include well-defined goals and objectives, continuous feedbacks, frequent evaluation of staff and their output, constant improvement on performance plan to meet up with changing times, as well as mid-term and annual assessment of results. But for the public enterprise to be efficient, requirements like being result-oriented, accountability, teamwork, rewards on merit, and compensations are indispensable to keep the flame of performance burning consistently amongst the staff. On the other hand, to measure the productivity of public enterprises, elements like growth, opportunities offered as employment, and increasing revenue collection are also recorded. For short, therefore, a reality formula to depict performance in public enterprises may go thus. The needed action plus behavioral change will then give the needed performance for the Cameroonian enterprises.
And in the face of the lackluster performance of most public establishments and enterprises in Cameroon today, economists are proposing that bringing private capital on board may trigger a tweak in the profit margin of these state companies. As Clarice Array Takang went finding out, this will pave the way for a more cost-effective management and productivity in most of these enterprises that are fast becoming a liability for the state.
A good idea is how a number of economists welcome the thought of public enterprises and establishments open to private equity.
It will ensure, for example, for instance, private equity will be easily acquired through shareholders. Second, listed capital or stock exchange capital will be easily accessed. The third aspect is that of venture capital.
State-run corporations are faced with the obligation to deliver by becoming more competitive. A number of socio-economic challenges have pressured the government into putting in place strategies which will both ensure that development goals are attained and social responsibility kept. Budgetary constraints followed. While public enterprises have to keep up with performance, the financial criteria cannot be overlooked. Private investors could be a profitable button to push.
But the performance-based management system will be vigorously practiced. It will lead to more cost efficiency, that's cheaper cost of running the corporation. In addition, it will lead to what you call mergers in terms of merging the enterprise with the continental value chain.
More and more public-private partnerships are recommended as a way of enabling the state stay in control of its entities without spending too much and yet achieving much. Getting private shareholders on board public structures is thus thought to be a smart option amongst others.
The wearing of face masks in public places will be mandatory until further notice.
The mayor of Douala 3 says he will in the days ahead rid the access road to the Japoma Stadium of items of traders who have transformed the pavements into a marketplace. Mayor Valentin Epupa was speaking after a tour of the site, calling on the inhabitants of Kolmbong to desist from the practice. Rene Kache is in Douala.
This is the newly constructed road that links Nkolmbong and Japoma in the Douala 3 council area. The 4-kilometer stretch of road is also a connecting point to neighborhoods such as Yassa and Nyala and has considerably reduced traffic congestion. But barely a few months after its construction, inhabitants of the area are gradually transforming the road into their commercial center.
What we intend to do now is to ask those people to move fast away from those pavements.
While frowning at this attitude, the mayor of Douala 3, Valentin Epupa, calls on the population to be more responsible and assist the council in order to eradicate this flu, which for now remains a headache.
Every citizen of Douala 3 should try himself to make some effort to that, to help us to make that our city become the cleanest city in the country.
Failure to do so,
if they cannot remove it themselves, we are trying to remove it.
The road is one of the main access roads into the 50,000-seater Japoma Stadium and also adds to the beauty of the city of Douala.
The spread of the coronavirus is jumping in the 10 regions of Cameroon as the country is now witnessing what health experts are referring to as community transmission. That's how public health workers are now using event-based surveillance to track down COVID-19 cases in the regions and stem the spread of the virus. But what exactly do medics mean by community transmission of COVID-19? That's the issue Baldwin Sama will be trashing with his guest, Dr. Amabo Frank, as we now join them at the Public Health Emergency Operations Center here in Yaoundé. Hello, Baldwin.
Good evening, Ben Menopofong, and welcome. Public health experts have discovered that more and more Cameroonians have stopped having themselves screened for COVID-19 because more of them have this impression that the COVID-19 is no longer among us. No, that is the response from these public health experts who are encouraging Cameroonians that they should continue having themselves screened, saying that the virus is still present among us and they must have themselves screened, especially in the different communities. Community transmission of COVID-19, that is what we shall be discussing with Dr. Frank Chi Amabo. He is an epidemiologist.
Ensure that case management can occur in the health, at home, and not only within health facilities. In terms of screening, we have a new outreach strategy where we have mobile caravans that go and screen people in markets and other public places. Also, sensitization is not only done by all the media we have, but equally it is done by proximity. And finally, we are strengthening our surveillance by having event-based surveillance.
And since you talked about events-based surveillance, what is it all about and how important is it as far as intervening during this phase of the fight against COVID-19 is concerned?
So I would like to first give the rationale for events-based surveillance.
And have themselves tested and know their status. Back to you, Ben Menopofong.
Thank you very much, Baldwin Sama, and your guests for those updates, and we continue to keep watch. The sum of 2,400 CFA francs has been slashed from the salaries of health workers beginning this July. According to sources from the Ministry of Public Health, this amount represents risk allowance which health workers have been unduly receiving over the last 18 years. A presidential decree of February 2002 that introduced 3 bonuses for state health workers.
COVID-19, they should not wake up to these cuts. Meanwhile, sources from the ministry have explained that the head of state had signed a decree in 2002 introducing 3 bonuses for the state health workers and officially annulling that particular allowance. But they add, if the new bonuses were effectively paid for the last 18 years, the former allowance had not been taken out of their salaries. So hundreds of these workers have been unduly receiving an additional 2,400 CFA francs every month since 2002. This has greatly increased Cameroon's payroll. Following ongoing moves to clean the payroll, the minister ordered the risk allowance to be slashed with effect from July 2020.
Economy, Finance and Integration Ministers of the CEMAC zone have been discussing a post-COVID-19 recovery plan to run from 2021 to 2025. This was during the 11th ordinary session of the Steering Committee of the Economic and Financial Reform Program, presided over by the Chair.
Commission have been tasked to draw up a detailed stimulus plan implementation schedule, cost estimate measures, and the stimulus plan financial assumptions by September 2020. Other aspects such as the second generation agreement between CEMAC and the IMF to reach the goals of structural transformation of the economies of the sub-region while ensuring greater diversification, industrialization, and poverty reduction will be reviewed under the chairmanship of Pref CEMAC Professor Daniel Ona-Ondo.
Cameroon's Minister of Territorial Administration, Paul Atanganje, today met with a delegation of traditional rulers from the Vuri division of the Littoral region, with whom he shared views on the upcoming regional council elections in the country. At the end of the tete-a-tete, Minister Atanganje told our reporter Ebenezer Kanga the essence of his exchange with the traditional rulers. Let's take a listen.
We are just here to brainstorm and to see if everything is put in place. Are we ready for these elections? That's why I thought that it would be necessary for me to have a brief discussion with all the rulers who are custodians of our traditions from Vuri division. We have the senior division officer, so that we can see, do they have some difficulties? Do we have problems that we have to solve? Let us put them on the table and discuss.
The 7:30 news on the Cameroon Radio Television. That's the way it was this Monday evening. Thanks for watching and good night.
In this connection, we should avoid stigmatizing